It is July 4th, 2024. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiating from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. We are learning that this is possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And then turn your mind back to that precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please Please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make the promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that we do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. And once again, listen to the source of all my good. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to them in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow them with all my strength and reverence. Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I have found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I have died, the things I have done, white or black, and what these deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrong of the many wrongs we do, and carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of the Buddha's teaching. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, every one my own mother, has fallen in too. Grant me then to practice the highest wish for enlightenment, to take upon myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough. For if I am not well trained in the three moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the vows for children of the victors. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together. One which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects. The other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. Grant that once I have practiced well the paths shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter with perfect ease the way of the diamond, highest of all ways, holiest door to come inside for the fortunate and good. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I have entered thus, the cause that gives me both the attainments is keeping my pledges and vows most pure. Grant that I may always keep them, even at the cost of my life. Bless me next to realize the crucial points of both the stages, the essence of the secret ways. Grant me then to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the 4 times, highest that there is. Bless me, grant me, that the spiritual guide who shows me this good road and all my true companions in this quest live long and fruitful lives. Bless and grant me that the rain of obstacles, the things within me and outside me that could stop me now, stop and end forever. In all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. All right. So I got enough responses from people that we will have that extra class on whatever day that was. Sunday, the 14th at the usual time. So join us if you like. I think I'll probably have to send a new Zoom link. So I'll send it to everybody that has said, yes, I want to do it. You know, a day or so before. Okay. It will be on the 4 powers of purification, which I know many of you already know, but maybe you don't. Okay, so our review from last class. What does that root of virtue mean? Like all the goodness I've ever done since forever, right? All right, good. No, it's specific. It's our collection of merit. Oh, thanks, Nettie. I forgot.
No, for the 4 steps class, not for
Oh,
this.
yes, that we will.
Okay, thank you.
My computer's already recording. Did somebody do that for me?
This
Natty,
one
did
you have record. Yeah, you record.
Okay. Okay. Distracted. Our root of virtue means our collection of merit. And our collection of merit means the goodness done by way of our practice of the first 4 of the 6 perfections. But that's some important goodness that we want to protect and keep and grow, of course. And then what kind of person can lose their most basic virtue, this root of virtue? We learned that it has to be somebody who's human, who can hold a sustained reasoning and reach a clear conclusion in their mind right, about something, right? Technically about anything. But then they use that ability to come to this clear conclusion that's going to be one that is such that it cuts the root of virtue. So they have to have the intellect to be able to evaluate something thoroughly, develop a conclusion that they then hold to. So then we learned there were two actions that can cause this loss of our root of virtue. One of them was called holding wrong view, which, you know, didn't mean just any old wrong view or we'd all be stuck, but meaning specifically having believed in karma and emptiness enough to make a root of virtue, and then applying clear thinking, clear logic to come to the clear conclusion that that is just not true, right? To believe that something is true is not true. That ass backwards viewpoint we talked about. So classically, the wrong view that breaks our root of virtue is the rejection of the truth of what's meant by karma, and or the rejection of that Buddhahood is possible for anybody. That just as a concept, it's impossible. And then the second one was that one that seems more dangerous. Strong anger directed at a bodhisattva, but then technically a bodhisattva having strong anger directed at another bodhisattva. And, you know, you could see how that would be so awful, because the bodhisattva would have to be under a wicked mental affliction that would make them lose their bodhisattva ideal long enough to be angry with another bodhisattva and sustain it. Okay, so really dangerous. And then they say, and so, you know, anger directed at anybody, strong, sustained anger directed at anybody is dangerous, because it's still damaging our goodness seeds big time. Even if I'm not a bodhisattva and I'm not directed at another bodhisattva, strong anger is still a difficult and heavy karmic seed to plant. But then we also learned that there's two methods for restoring our most basic virtue. And one of them had to do with having doubt about that previous conclusion. Just doubt. Hey, you know, maybe there's something to that karma and emptiness. I've heard Geshe-la say, just to hear a teaching on emptiness and have the thought, wow, maybe that's true. Wouldn't that be cool if that was true? Is such a powerful karmic goodness that it like puts us onto this different path than we were before we had that thought. So how many times have you had the thought, wow, you know, wouldn't that be cool if emptiness and karma really were true, and that if I could see it? And every time we have that puny little thought, it reverberates in all of our seeds. So have it a lot. Then the second one is having certainty about the wrongness of that previously held view. Meaning you come to a valid perception that that view you were holding to is mistaken, was mistaken. All right. So this class is another like topic of consideration that's quite ugly, like unpleasant to think about. And again, we're learning about it so that we can know what to avoid, like the plague, right? We already have these two things: coming to the wrong conclusion about karma and emptiness, having strong sustained anger towards a bodhisattva. Now we've got 5 more. And then there's 5 that are similar. So technically 10 more. So this topic is called Sammena. Here it is. Sammena. Na means 5. Samme means no interim. The 5 no interims. But what it means is the 5 immediate misdeeds, often called the 5 heinous deeds. I know that's a weird English word. Nobody really uses it in real life. Heinous means like the most awful, terrible. Heinous, heinous. You usually use it when you're talking about a criminal. Somebody did some really, really awful criminal behavior, and you say, oh, that was just heinous, right? So awful. So there are these 5 so awful deeds that that karmic seed will be your projecting karma. And it will ripen you as a hell being. Very next life. So that's why they're called immediate. These are deeds that, if done in this life, guarantee an immediate next life as a hell realm being for the length of time that you have other hell realm seeds that could ripen. So the deeds we're talking about, however long they take you to make them, you have that many 65 imprints worth of seeds, which, wouldn't make all that long a hell realm. But once you get yourself into perceiving yourself as a hell realm being, all your other seeds that, if any one of them was your projecting karma, would have sent you to a hell realm, they're all going off to keep you in a hell realm. So hell realm seeds are made by a whole bunch of ugly stuff. And so we can be in a hell realm for a really long time once we get there, because we're there until we have no more hell realm seeds to ripen. Just like we're in a pleasure realm until we have no more pleasure realm seeds to ripen, and then we drop. Fortunately, at the end of a hell realm life, right, you come out. You don't have any more hell realm for a while, at least, until you make more hell realm seeds, which apparently is so easy to do. Anyway, so Sammena is these 5 immediate misdeeds, called immediate because they will cause your immediate next life to be a hell realm. There is a bardo, probably doesn't last very long. And there's no opportunity, no matter what, to get diverted from that bardo into someplace else, which apparently is possible for other places bardo might be sending us. Yeah, those words didn't come out right. So here are the 5. This is from Abhidharma level school, but all the schools agree. So these 5, not in their order of severity, but in the order in which Lord Buddha taught them. Masupa, Pasupa, Drachomba Supa, Genden Ki Yenjepa, and Deshek Lanyan Sam Gi Trak Jimpa. Here's the 5. Supa means to kill, not like Lama Supa. That's a different spelling of Supa. Masupa means to kill your mother. Pasupa means to kill your father. So the scriptures has in it an interesting conversation or interesting debate, because somebody's trying to work out, well, just exactly what you mean by my mother. And they said, what if one woman gives the egg, but another woman actually carries the pregnancy? And suppose a third woman actually takes care of you, right, until you're independent. Which mother are we talking about here? So it's pretty interesting that these ancient scriptures are wondering, is it the egg donor? Right. I mean, I don't know, were they doing that kind of stuff back then? So the answer is it's the egg, it's the egg giver. It's the mother that provides the material that contributes to the physical body of this lifetime. And we could say, well, wait a minute, the mom whose womb I was in, she contributed a lot. Yes, she did. She's a powerful karmic object. And then wait a minute, what about the mom that, fed me, cleaned me, taught me, protected me? She did a lot too. Yes, she did. She's a powerful karmic object. But this Ma, that is the one that if we kill, plants a seed that will be our projecting karma straight to hell, is the one whose egg it was. Because to have a human body puts us so much closer to reaching enlightenment than anything else anybody else can do for us, except our Lama, right? Which we'll get to, except Buddha. So Ma and Pa, the same's gonna hold for the Pa. Which Pa are we talking about here? The one who donated the DNA. And for both Ma and Pa, it actually here, in this circumstance, we are not talking about the quality of their parenting. We're just talking about the fact that their bodies were instrumental in giving us the body of this lifetime. And that's what makes them this kind of powerful karmic object. The other ones that take care of us, they're powerful karmic objects too, but not ones that will create this seed that will be the projecting karma that will ripen us as a hell realm being. So to kill one's mother or to kill one's father, both of those are deeds that will send us straight to hell realm, rebirth. Do not, what does that say in the Monopoly game? Do not pass go, do not collect $200. You just go directly. So someone asks, well then, what if your mom, the mom that gave the egg and you're in her womb and giving birth to you, she dies? Did you kill your mom? And so are you doomed to a hell realm next birth, no matter what happens to you as a little infant? And they say, they don't go, no, absolutely not. But they say, well, probably not, because you didn't have the 4 parts of a path of action going on. You didn't have a clear identification. You didn't have, right? There was a vague identification. You didn't have what's the second one? The clear thinking about it. You, the infant, right? You, the infant, didn't have the action, right? The action plan that you set about to do. And the deed did get completed, but it wasn't your deed, right? So yes, she dies, but you didn't. And yes, your birth did cause it, but you didn't cause it.
You didn't
You
have a
didn't set
choice.
about to make it happen, right? Who's making noise here? Yeah, okay. But so that conversation says, then there's various factors involved in this killing Ma, killing Pa. Like, what if she made me promise that if she was hooked up to life support, I was supposed to say, take it off? What if, I was trying to take care of her and oops, right? Something happened and she died instead. There are all these what ifs versus I set about to kill my mother and I did it, right? Yikers. Clear, heinous crime. All the rest of these are like variations on a theme. And so it's still a little bit hard to say. Did the scripture say that even if it's totally by accident, you still are headed for a hell realm? And I can't answer that personally. But as we think about it, it's like it just, rather than trying to see all the different ways in which we could wiggle out of making a 5, one of the 5 immediate misdeeds, our thinking would be, okay, how am I going to go out of my way to avoid in any way, shape, or form contributing to my mother's demise? And then we'd flip that around and say, well, then how do I contribute to her health and long life? Because if we're doing that, the likelihood of even falling into an accidental contributing to her death would be much less likely, right? Because if we had that in mind, even as we're driving her somewhere, I'm protecting her life, right? We would be on pins and needles to drive carefully. Does that mean some stupid driver is not going to come slam into us? No, but then that's not my killing her just because I was driving when the other guy slammed into her. Do you see? So all these nuances, that's why we're learning all the nuances, so that we can be thinking about them as we are recognizing what kinds of things we've done in our past that we can remember, and drawing conclusions about what kinds of things we must have done in our past because of what we see in our world, and deciding, so what kinds of things do I want to do that will stop creating those and start creating their opposites, right? We can design our own behavior, and then we have our vows to help us make those choices. And it's empowering to know all these details. Okay? But it can also be overwhelming if we think, oh my gosh, at any moment I could be part of killing my mother. That would be so horrible. We could get frozen. And that's not the point. All right, so Ma and Pa, first 2 of the 5. Next one is Dra Chomba Suba, killing a Dra Chomba. Dra Chomba is the Tibetan word for Arhat. They translate it as enemy destroyer. Dra is the enemy, Chomba is the destroyer. To kill an enemy destroyer means to kill an Arhat. the enemy that the enemy destroyer has destroyed is their mental afflictions and seeds for more. So it means someone who themselves is perceiving themselves in nirvana. For us to kill them, they are a powerful, powerful karmic object because they're free of mental afflictions. And all that they had to do to get there makes them a powerful karmic object. And if they're on the Mahayana path, and even I suppose if they're not, they are so much closer to their total enlightenment that makes them a powerful karmic object. Right? So Ma and Pa are powerful karmic objects for a different reason. Dra Chomba are powerful karmic objects because they're free of mental afflictions and seeds for them. And they're so much closer to reaching Buddhahood. So technically, anything we do towards them is powerful seed planting, but to contribute to their death is a seed that will ripen and will send us to a hell realm. And then there's that funny little caveat. How do we know who's in nirvana and who's not? Like, oh, nirvana, I can't kill a Dra Chomba because I'm in samsara and they're in nirvana, so the two do not mix. No, actually, any one of you could be in nirvana and I wouldn't know it, except maybe by the little blissed out expression on your face. But they could be all around us and we don't know. So where it's like, we're kind of in that situation again of, could I have killed a arhat and not know it? Well, that means you'd have to have killed somebody that you saw as at least a human, and I hope none of us have done that. To kill an arhat. Number 3. Gendin Giyen Jepa is number 4. Gendin is the word for Sangha. Technically, Sangha means a gathering of 4 or more monks or nuns is a Sangha. Yen Jepa means to divide. So this 4th nasty deed is to cause a division in the Sangha, to cause a schism. To cause a schism in the Sangha. But this one is very, very specific. It is, in fact, of the 5 immediate misdeeds, it's the worst. The hell realm that ripens as a result of having split the Sangha is called the Avici, meaning the hell of no respite, meaning the worst level. And again, I think it's course 8 where we learn all the details of all the levels of hell realms and etc. This one's throws us to the worst of the worst. And it's a bit of a long story. So for a splitting the Sangha to be a deed that is this misdeed that will send us to the worst of the worst hell realms, the Sangha we're talking about is the Sangha of Shakyamuni Buddha, which means we can't do this one because Shakyamuni's not here. So Shakyamuni does not have a Sangha. all the sanghas that we have, meaning the ordained beings that live together, yes, they are Buddhist sangha, but they are not Shakyamuni's sangha, meaning during Buddha's time, as he gathered disciples, he gathered them to live together, and that he gave them rules to live by so that they're living together would create good seeds instead of bad seeds. And the way the rules came about is, somebody was living in amongst them and they did something that caused an uproar. And Buddha goes, okay, no more of that kind of behavior, right? And everybody had to live by the new rules. So the rules got made, the vows got given, not the vows, the rules got made based on people's mishaps and how to fix them to prevent them from happening again. So during Buddha's time, these different areas of monasteries got developed, and he would be living in one for a while, and then he'd travel, right? He'd go to another, and some of them would go with him and some would stay. And so over time, as disciples got more and more familiar with the teachings, maybe they heard them all once or twice or 3 times before. And suppose there's this a particular monastery where Buddha's away teaching someplace else, and there's a particular monk in that monastery who's a good monk, keeps their vows, charismatic, but kind of goes off a bit and wants to gather disciples of their own. And so they come up with these 5 new methods of reaching nirvana. And they teach these 5 new methods of reaching nirvana. And some of the other ordained who are not yet Arya are attracted to that new method. And they start to follow this other monk. And the others that don't believe, right? There's this conflict, and there develops this split. And fortunately, at that time, 2 of Buddha's main disciples, they're called the 2 special disciples. Who is it? Where's my notes? Shariputra and Magdalena. They show up, and one of them is able to fix the schism before it breaks apart completely. But that monk who intentionally made up stuff, right? Told lies to the Sangha in order to get a gathering of his own students. Even though the schism gets fixed, he still has made these seeds that sends him to the worst of the worst hell realm. And it isn't the schism, it's the willingness to tell the lie to get the disciples of their own that makes the schism, that makes the terrible seeds. So Geshe says when he's translating this information about this 4th of these nasty behaviors, he says it reads like an explanation of a process of something that happened during Shakyamuni Buddha's time, but it reads as if it's an outline of something that happens within the Sangha of any Buddha who's in Shakyamuni's same position. Like when you're the Buddha of a particular world, It's going to happen. That somebody's going to do this. And it's the specific kind of criteria about the person and the circumstance and how it gets fixed that's going to happen. And then there are certain criteria for when it can't happen that I'm going to get back to in a minute after I talk about this fifth bad deed. So the fifth one, Deshek la Nyensem gi Trak Jimpa. Trak Jimpa means to draw blood. Nyensem means with evil intention. And Deshek is short for Deshek Shepa, which is those who have gone thus, or those gone to bliss, meaning Buddha. So this fifth worst of the worst bad deeds is to draw blood from the Buddha with evil intent. And it's also kind of peculiar because, come on, nobody can hurt a Buddha. And even if they tried to kill him, they couldn't. Remember the story of Angulimala, who's got 999 fingers on a necklace around his neck, and he only needs one more finger accumulated on his necklace of fingers to reach his liberation, according to his teacher. And so he's going down this road, and here's this guy walking along, and he goes, my 1,000th victim. And so he hurried to catch up to the guy walking slowly. And the hurrier he went, the behinder he got. Like, even though the guy in front was not walking any different speed, he just couldn't get there. And I don't know, finally he gets close enough to ask, like, what's going on here? How come I can't get close enough to you to kill you? I need one more finger to get liberated. And, Buddha said, you can have my finger, but it's not going to get you liberated. And because of his experience, the guy's willing to listen. Like, who the heck are you? And he becomes a great disciple. And he goes on to reach Arya, and I'm not sure, maybe even Arhat, even though he's killed 999 people for their fingers. Why did I go there? You can't draw blood from a Buddha, but you can try with evil intent. And that seed, even though you fail to do so, or maybe you do, send you to a hell realm, but not the lowest hell realm. Curious. So the story of this one, not of this one, not the what made this one, but about this one, is that in Prince Siddhartha's time, he had a cousin named Devadatta. And Devadatta was insanely jealous of his cousin, Prince Siddhartha. And when Siddhartha goes on to become Buddha, right? Now Devadatta is crazy jealous of him. And in this mental affliction, he makes a catapult, like he's up on a cliff and Buddha's down below. And he catapults this rock towards Lord Buddha. Devadatta wants to kill him. He's so jealous. And all the rock manages to do is scratch Lord Buddha's shin and cause a little bit of blood. And some people say Buddha just let that happen, right? Because you can't hurt Buddha, no matter how hard you try. But it appears that Devadatta wants to harm the Buddha, and all he manages to do is give him a little, bloody boo-boo. But that's enough for poor old Devadatta to ripen his very next lifetime as a hell being. And I don't know, maybe he's still there. I hope not. So these 5 deeds are the deeds we want to absolutely avoid. 2 of them we can't do anyway, right? We can't even try to draw blood from a Buddha with any kind of intent, because Buddha's not walking our earth. Right? Shakyamuni Buddha is not walking our earth. According to lower schools, there's no Buddha walking our earth right now, because there are not enough people with enough merit, enough goodness to see one. Which means maybe they're all around us, we just can't see them. But it still puts us in the position that we can't do this 5th deed to make the projecting karma to send us to a hell realm. And we also are not alive in a time when there is that the Buddha of our time, Sangha, that we could be the one who somehow lies to the Sangha, but has enough goodness for them to believe and break them up. Geshe always says, but don't be overly confident. Yes, we can't do the immediate misdeed of those 2, but to contribute to a schism in any group of people that have a common purpose is terrible seeds, because they ripen as us always being split from some group or some good idea. And then in particular, to split a spiritual group with a common focus. Okay? Again, the split alone, regardless of how you do it, is a serious set of seeds that block our own progress towards the happiness that we're wanting. Because in creating a split, you've made some people happy and some people unhappy. Right? And you've kind of done it intentionally. Okay. So in this 4th big bad deed, the creating the split, you have a homework question that says, what's the profile of the monk that creates the schism? And they're a full monk who's keeping their morality. They're intelligent and charismatic. They have a good reputation. But he she intentionally sets forth these 5 new ideas for achieving nirvana that they know are different than Lord Buddha's. Maybe they believe that they could work, but they know that they're outside of what Buddha taught. Right? So they know that they're telling something wrong. Geshe says they're lying on purpose, but it feels a little bit, it's like, yeah, maybe it is lying. So they say there's certain circumstances that either are present or can't be present in order for this to happen. One is that this situation cannot happen when the Buddha is present in the monastery where this monk is. And it can only happen when the Buddha is absent from that monastery, meaning he's just gone someplace else to teach. But even when the Buddha is gone from the monastery, in the first 12 years of Buddha's teachings, everybody is still so enamored of what Buddha is teaching. Like they're still learning new things that nobody else, no matter how good their karma, how charismatic, how intelligent, nobody's gonna, right? Nobody's gonna listen to them over what Buddha has taught. After the first 12 years, apparently, by after the first 12 years, Buddha's got centers in different places, and he's not in all of them at the same time. And so while he's gone, others are teaching what he's taught to others. And because he's gone for a while, sometimes what gets taught gets twisted a little bit or corrupted a little bit. And we see in our lineage how important it is to always clarify, right? This is what I was taught from the scripture, from my teacher. This is how I put it together and worked with it, but being really clear that we teach according to the lineage so that we're not the one that twists things up a little bit, at least without saying, this is how I've twisted it to help me. But keep it clear so that the lineage stays as pure as we can keep it, which is still not going to be perfectly pure, right? Like that game telephone, right? You whisper something, and by the time it gets around, it's like, it's so different. So after the first 12 years, the Buddhism can get more easily corrupted and changed. Geshe-la said, like, we'll get to a point where we've taken all the courses maybe more than once, and we get into another one and our mind just goes, I've heard it before, I've heard it before, I've heard it before. We're still interested and eager, but it's natural for us to start to think, where is there something new and different? And we can reach this point where we start looking into even other traditions, looking for just another clue, right? When really we just need to apply ourselves to what we've learned deeper, more subtly, and do it again and again and again on these different levels. But the human tendency is, okay, finish this, let me do that. And we do it going through our ACI, and the diamond way is the same. And then the tendency is going to be, well, now what? Okay. Well, now what means put it all together, make it work, go deeper, 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 not go elsewhere. But the go elsewhere is like human nature, to keep looking for more, more, more. All righty. So not within the first 12 years of a Buddha teaching. And then they say, another time the schism will not happen is when Buddha's at the end of his life. Because when Buddha is manifesting his withdrawal, everybody's unified in their sadness. Buddha manifests their parinirvana, it's called, meaning withdraws their emanation from the earth, because there are no longer enough beings on the earth to sustain perceiving that being. with such, who is a being of such virtue. So when not enough beings have enough goodness, it's time for Buddha to go. And that pattern happens again and again. Buddha was this Earth's fourth wheel turning Buddha. A fifth one will come when there are enough beings with enough goodness to be able to see him. And then some of those beings will finish, right, and go, or die, or whatever. And then there won't be enough. And that being will withdraw as well. Even though their main disciples are all there around them. Right? The main disciples still have the goodness, but there aren't enough others to sustain it even by those who have the goodness to see him. So all that are left are unified in their sadness. And so nobody's going to believe somebody else who says, you know, I have another way, right? Because they're not going to say that at that time. Okay. It also can't happen if those two special disciples are not, I don't know, in existence or not available or not around. And again, these are one of the ones I've got on the shelf because it's like, well, where do they come from? Anyway. I already said Buddha has to have been elsewhere. Can't happen at the beginning. Okay, wait. There's a couple more of these. What can't happen? It can't happen in the 12 years. Where is it? I'm going to the answer key. Hang on. It can't have to right after the Buddha has started teaching. It can't happen as the Buddha is passing into nirvana and right afterwards. It can't happen in the first 12 years of his teaching. It can't happen before those two main disciples appear. It can't happen in the time after the Buddha's apparent death because everybody's grieving too much. And it can't happen before there's multiple monasteries. There needs to be at least one monastery and then someplace else where Buddha has gone. So again, like why this information is important enough to be on our homework, I don't quite understand. The nuances are telling us something about monastic, the power of monastic life, the power of a Buddhist teachings, you know, stuff to think about. The important thing about the danger of a schism, actually, I see I've gone by our break time. Let's take our break, and then I'll talk about the important thing about the schism. Pause record. Okay. Please get refreshed. Thank you. So apparently this whole situation of the monk telling this lie to get disciples of his own, causing a schism, the two special disciples showing up and fixing the problem takes 24 hours.
Yes, thank you. Oops, sorry.
And the reason this is the worst of the worst deeds is that it's also called breaking the wheel, meaning breaking the wheel of the Dharma. That during that 24-hour period, says the Abhidharma teachings from Lord Buddha, nobody in the world at that time can perceive emptiness directly. The nature of that disruption of the Sangha is such that it affects the harmony of the entire world, such that even if somebody was so close to seeing emptiness directly that it was going to happen in those 24 hours, it wouldn't. Which you can feel the power of that, right? It's like that situation changes the whole resonance of the whole universe in such a way that everybody's goodness is blocked. Do you want to be the responsible for that? No, and that seed, but worst of the worst, hell realm lifetime. So it's a really, really serious thing. And Geshe says, and so by way of onion skin theory, to be someone who contributes to any kind of conflict within your spiritual community is really serious negativity. Is it gonna send you to a hell realm? Maybe, maybe not, but is it gonna block everybody's ability to understand emptiness? Maybe, maybe not, but it's serious to do anything that breaks up the harmony of your spiritual group. Because we can see at the worst case scenario, it just freezes the goodness of all existence, like all humanity. Maybe I'm going too far to say all existence, but all humanity gets frozen in their goodness for the 24 hours until it's fixed. Geshe says, if you're with a group, as that group carries on, you will have experiences where somebody in the group pushes your buttons, right? There'll be somebody who either comes to the group or is in the group that you don't like. Like, just because you're all in the same group doesn't mean you're going to like each other. But being in the same group, like by default, you've got this common goal. And so we've all sort of pledged, at least to ourselves, that I'm going to try to help everybody else in this group get what they want. And then, like, the instant we determine that, there go the buttons, right? Well, everybody but them, they should know better. They're higher than me in this group. How dare they treat me like that? Don't they know about karmic seeds, right? It's like, whoa, man, yeesh. So Geshe says, if we expect that there will be people that irritate us, there'll be people we don't like, there'll be people we do like that do things that we don't like. If we expect it and we're ready to use it for our own growth and behavior management opportunity, that's what the group is for. And we will then refuse to let ourselves be the one that's pointing out the bad deeds of the other one to somebody else, that's pushing other people's buttons, because that's what we do in a spiritual group. Like, I now have permission to push your buttons. And it's like, no, you don't, right? To expect it, then we can be on our best behavior in terms of our own seed planting opportunity with powerful karmic objects, our co-students, let alone the Lama. We don't want to be the cause of disunity in a Sangha. We don't want to be the cause of disunity in your neighborhood, right? In your family, in your workplace. And yet it's kind of not human nature to say, no matter what, I'm not going to be the cause of disunity. Like, we say it, but then a circumstance comes up and it's like, no, my own, right? My own needs are greater than the unity of the group here. And that's the practice, is to keep pushing our bar up of how we use those irritating moments in our practice. All right. So these 5 deeds, what makes them so extraordinarily negative? And what's the order of their negativity? We already saw that the schism is the worst of the worst. And then there's a little bit more explanation for why here. So this is the topic called Pempashi and Yunten Gishi. Let me go back to screen share. I have everybody back. Not quite. Yes, yes, yes. Here it is. Pempashi and Yunten Gishi. She is that word for basis, where we had it before in the 4 parts of a path of action. The basis was the object involved. That it's similar here. Pempe means the help. The basis help is what this means. But what it is saying is the amount of help that object has given you or is giving others, and how many others. So the more help they've been to you, the more help they give to others, the more help, the higher help they give to many, many others, the stronger the Pempe Shi, the stronger the object is. So so 3 of these 5 deeds have to do with killing. Three of them are outright killing. One of them is attempted killing. And one of them is creating the schism. But it's not so much the schism, it's the lie that's being told that creates the schism. So 2 of the Pempeshi, Ma and Pa, I already said they're special because they benefited us by way of giving us this body for this life. A human body, a human life with a human body. I think those 2 go together. Is the only circumstance from which we can reach enlightenment in that lifetime. Can't do it as a hell being, can't do it as a hungry ghost, can't do it as an animal, can't do it as a hungry ghost or as a jealous god or a pleasure being. Only human. Technically, any human has the 6 things needed. There are a lot of other things we need as well. Leisure and fortune, alama, right? Enough goodness to win it, etc. But just having a human lifetime, human body. And because of that, the ones who gave us that are such powerful karmic objects. Again, it's not the quality with which they took care of us. Just the fact that they made our body for us. The reason that's so bad is to kill them is saying to our own mind, I reject this benefit that they have given me. And that extends to rejecting our own Buddhahood. They gave us this thing from which we can reach Buddhahood. You kill them, you kill your belief, your ideal of becoming a Buddha. It's very subtle. It's like, no, I'm not thinking that. And apparently you don't have to be thinking it. It's the ramification of killing the one that you know gave the egg and or the sperm. Something, I guess, deep in our subconscious knows. To want to kill your parent means you reject them and want to eliminate them. And by so doing, you are rejecting and eliminating your possibility of Buddhahood. The seeds are planted for that, which those seeds are going to carry on. So even if you do get outside your hell realm, eventually the likelihood of having seeds of even it occurring to you that Buddha, becoming a Buddha is something that one would want to do, let alone hearing about Buddha, would be a long, long time. And a lot of goodness needing to be created before we could get that back. So the association is the rejection of your Buddhahood for killing mother, killing father. Then the second factor, yunten shigi, gishi. This is the object that has good qualities. The object with the good qualities. So the qualities of ma and pa, they maybe don't have good qualities at all, but they're powerful because they gave the body. Maybe they do have great qualities too, but that's not the thing. Here, the good qualities that we see in the other makes them the powerful karmic object, or that we know the other has, or by way of who they are. So this one's talking about, we have Arhat, the Drachumpa. We have Sangha, this thing about the schism, and we have Buddha. So these last three are terrible deeds because of the power of the karmic object towards which our deed is done. Right? Their good deed, their goodness. All of these are about the powerful karmic objects, but these last three is because of their goodness. So to kill an arhat means to reject and want to eliminate them, which just like rejecting Mappa rejects our Buddhahood, it's rejecting nirvana, reaching nirvana, cutting off our belief or ability or even interest in reaching the end of our own suffering. And then to create a schism is to reject and eliminate the unity of the Sangha, technically the Buddha's Sangha, and then to try to harm a Buddha with evil intent is to reject and try to eliminate the Buddha, even though one can't. And so those last three would require a big, strong disrespect and disregard and even rejection of those three and what they stand for. And that's why they're so powerfully mentally to create seeds that will be the projecting karma, that will send us to the hell realm, the schism being the lowest. The creating a schism says it damages the Dharmakaya. And trying to kill a Buddha damages the Rupakaya, the form body of a Buddha. The schism is more powerfully negative because in damaging the Dharmakaya, not it, but damaging our own mind's belief in it, understanding in it, of it, right? Damaging the Dharmakaya is damaging that thing that is the end of all suffering for everybody. Whereas damaging or killing the body of a Buddha is damaging the Rupakaya, the appearing nature of a Buddha, which is serious negativity. But the form is not what stops the suffering. The form is the form through which the Dharmakaya teaches people, but it's the Dharmakaya, our own Dharmakaya, that will be the end of suffering for all beings everywhere. So to see ourselves damage a Dharmakaya means ours will never get, and will never become, or not for a really, really long time. And it's the most serious because that's the end of all suffering. Second most serious is harming the Rupakaya because it's through that form that Buddha teaches. It's through our Rupakaya that we will teach. You can't become Buddha without a Rupakaya. But it's only second most terrible because the Rupakaya is not what ends the suffering. The Dharmakaya is what ends the suffering. So damaging the Dharmakaya is the worst of the worst. That happens by way of the schism. The unity of the Sangha represents the Dharmakaya. That's interesting to think about. Then third worst is killing a Arhat because they represent our reaching nirvana. Right? They've reached it. You know, if we know them, that they've reached that, that's our seeds ripening. And to kill them means we reject. Then five, four, three, two. Mahasupa, killing mother, is next one less serious than Dra Chompa. Somehow the mother's egg giving is more beneficial than the father's sperm giving. And my guess it has something to do with the factor of being carried in the womb. So to kill Ma is a little worse than to kill Pa. So if we were to put these in order of severity, the least severe is killing father. Next severe, killing mother. Third severe, killing Arhat. Fourth severe, trying to draw blood from a Buddha, trying to harm a Buddha with evil intent. And fifth and worst is creating a schism within the Sangha. 2 of these we can't even do. Phew. So really, we've got 3 that we can be especially careful not to contribute to. And of course, we have no intention of doing any of them, I suspect. But Geshe-la says morality is like concentric circles, or we work with our morality thinking of them as concentric circles. And it's the onion skin theory that I think you've all heard. And the example he gives is a monk takes vows to not have sex. Technically not have sex with a woman. I know that leaves a lot of open stuff, but in our case, right, has this vow to not have sex with a woman. So to not have sex with a woman is the very center of the onion. And there are these rings out, right? So imagine there's a bullseye. And here's, I'll just get my board. All right, here's the bullseye. In the middle of the bullseye is the vow to not have sex with a woman. In order to avoid that, one could say, well, what would help me avoid having sex with a woman is if I establish for myself that I won't even touch one. You know, I won't give hugs, I won't give handshakes, I'll just be polite, but not touch. If I don't touch a woman, if I don't let myself touch a woman, I for sure am not ever going to get into the middle circle of damaging my vow of having sex with one. Okay, so what would be next step out from not even touching a woman? You know, maybe I will establish for myself that I will always stay more than an arm's length away from one. You know, or maybe I will establish I will never be in a room alone with one. Right? If I'm never in a room alone with them, I'm much less likely to get close enough to touch them. I'm absolutely not likely to have sex with them. You can keep working your way out in the behavior you're trying to completely avoid to find the beginnings of that could lead to that behavior and avoid that. And then find the beginnings of that behavior and avoid that. And the beginnings of that. And you keep working your way out until you find a space where, well, this is how I'll interact with members of the opposite sex in the places where I need to, right? You can have it all kind of planned out in your mind and very keenly aware of what line you will not cross just to get this far. And if you refuse to cross this line, you aren't ever going to get inside there. Right? So same for whatever mental affliction we're trying to work with. Right? Work your way out. It requires a pretty high level of mindfulness, of course. You know, it's one thing to avoid having a relationship with somebody. It takes a lot more subtlety to avoid touching them, right? Avoid a conversation with them. Avoid whatever your criteria is going to be. So in these 5 schism things, or 5 worst deeds, we're probably not in danger of doing any of them. But we can work our way through this target, right? And see where can I really, really carefully avoid ever even getting close to any of those? And Geshe taught it by way of, I'm going to avoid this, I'm going to avoid that. I like to think of it too in terms of turning it around and doing the opposite. So if we're training ourselves in the opposite of killing mother, killing father, killing arhat, right? And we can add that to our onion skin thing. We're training ourselves in these protective behaviors, then, we're not ever going to get close to the negative behaviors that's really protecting us from the center. So, if your mother's still living and she's asked you to be the one to pull the plug, you think it through, have a deep conversation with her. Maybe you decide, Mom, I just can't do that for you. And then do what one needs to do to protect life such that she never gets in that situation. People can just drop dead. People can not get put on life support. Okay? It's not a failure for someone to die. But we don't want to be in the position of being the one that has to bring it on. Right? Even when we understand, they're going to go on, they're going to have another life, it's okay. We don't know for sure what their projecting karma is going to be at the moment. All right. Geshe says, think of the deed you're wanting to avoid. Think of the thing that takes us to that deed. Think of the thought that leads to the thing that would take us to that deed. And find the habit that leads to the thought that leads to the thing that leads to that deed. And work at the habit. Change the habit. And then that whole domino won't happen. And that's true for anything we're trying to avoid doing. Right? We find the thing we want to avoid. Find the thing that triggers it. Find the thought that triggers the thing. Find the habit that triggers the thought. Work on that habit. Right? It's much easier than trying to work on the actual wrong deed. All right. So almost done here. There's a second set of 5. These are called the 5 immediate misdeeds and the 5 that are close to them. So these other 5 are the 5 that are close to them. And these 5 are to rape your mother, who's also an arhat. So it apparently happens. Second one, to kill a bodhisattva of certainty. A bodhisattva of certainty means that that bodhisattva has only 100 kalpas to go before they reach total enlightenment. It's like at a certain boomy level of bodhisattvahood. How do I know? I don't know. Third one is to kill any one of the 7 high practitioners. The 7 high practitioners refers to those on the path of seeing and beyond. So path of seeing and the 7 levels afterwards. Number 4, to steal the property of the Sangha. And number 5, to destroy images, altars, temples out of anger and hatred. So these 5 that are close to the 5 that are the worst, Geshe says, you know, he says, I don't really understand what's the difference between them. He says the scriptures just says the hell realms from these other 5 are just not so bad as the hell realms of the original 5. And it's like, come on, a hell realm is bad no matter what. So here's 5 more things to avoid and to develop the opposite of. So in the reading, there's this debate that somebody says, well, wait, you're saying that these are the 5 worst deeds and the 5 that are close to being the worst deeds. But, you know, in the scripture, Buddha says the most serious bad deeds are the mental bad deeds. And none of these 10 are mental deeds. And it is a good question. But then the explanation is when Buddha was talking about the mental bad deeds are the worst bad deeds, he was talking in relation to the 10 virtues as they are organized by the 3 gates, body, speech, and mind. And in comparing the bad deeds of body, bad deeds of speech, and bad deeds of mind, the bad deeds of mind are the worst. And that seems odd because it's like, come on, being jealous of my neighbor is worse than killing somebody. And the scripture says, no, not like that, but in the sense of the bad deeds of mind are what motivate us to do any of the others. You know, it would have been my jealousy or my anger or my ill will or my just plain wrong view that made me think it was okay to go kill somebody. If we didn't have wrong view, if we didn't have wrong mental factor, we would never allow ourselves to do a deed that's harmful to another. Right? We only do a deed that's harmful to another because we think it's going to help us in some way. We don't just go have fun doing harm to others. Some people do. But then there's this big debate, right? If they get happy harming others. Anyway. So there are actually 5 kinds of wrong view through which we allow ourselves to do any other deed that will come back to us as harmful. Like it's through one of these 5. This is not on your homework. It's not part of class, but Geshe gave it as part of classes. I don't know, some extra credit or something. So the first of these 5 kinds of wrong view, we learned the one called Lokta already. It's the 5th. So the first one is called extreme view. Extreme view means to believe that things exist in just the way they appear to exist. And if they don't exist like that, they must not exist at all. Sound familiar? That's called wrong view or extreme view. Both extremes. This extreme, that extreme. Second one is called perishable view. This is to believe that me and what belongs to me are self-existent. me and what belongs to me have their identities, their qualities in them. First link in the wheel. Third one is called mistaken view. Like all of these are mistaken, but this one gets the title mistaken, which is to practice mistaken kinds of morality and asceticism, thinking it will take us further on our spiritual path. Mistaken view. There are other traditions that say, you know, stand on one foot for 30 years and you'll gain your liberation. Or, you know, beat yourself to burn off your bad deeds. And this tradition says that's a hugely mistaken view. Enough bad stuff's going to happen to you. You don't have to bring it on. The 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 is called best view, which is kind of funny. It's not the best wrong view, but it means you think your views are the best. But the views that you're holding to, right, are wrong. You don't know they're wrong. My view is the best. Who doesn't have that one? And the last one is the ass backward view, the lokta. The wrong view that has determined that karma can't be, there's no such thing as karma, there's no such thing as Buddhahood. Ass backward. So one or more of these wrong views is what's in motion as we're choosing our behaviors in order to get what we want and to avoid what we don't want. And our practice is to recognize that and decide, no, I'm under the influence of that wrong view. What's my right view? Can I apply it? It's really hard to do that when you're in the midst of an event. So we use our meditation time to practice, to think it through, to get familiar, to, work it out, which increases the likelihood of us being able to actually apply it when we get in a situation. And if not actually in the moment of the situation, very swiftly afterwards. Oh man, missed it again. The sooner we have that regret, right? The less damage is done. The seed gets negated quickly when our regret kicks in. And every time we do that, it gets a little bit easier, a little bit faster for the regret to kick in. Can we get to where the regret kicks in as I'm starting to say that nasty thing back again? And then, right, mid-sentence. That's a milestone to get to that. And it just, right, it's a practice. It's a training. It can be like a game, really. If we don't take our successes and failures so personally, it's like, oh man, Blackstone into the pocket. But some white ones also. Okay. All right. So again, Geshe-la says, we're probably not close to doing any of these deeds and hopefully never will be, but do the target thing. Get yourself way out here on the outer rim. And so you can, live with some greater assurance and ease. Okay, that's class 9. I get 10 minutes back in my bank. So remember that person that you wanted to be able to help. We learned more about how we will go on to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them. Your reliance upon them. Ask them to please, please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all filled with happiness, filled with wisdom, filled with loving kindness. And may it be so. All right. So next week at class 10, I'll assign the final questions for class 11. So if you want to play, be here at class 10 at the beginning so you get your questions assigned. And I think everybody's done that with me before. Maybe not Rocio. You get to teach me the review class. So you get to be, everybody gets to be the teacher for the moment, and everybody gets questions, 2 or 3 questions. And then you're welcome to just read the answer key, or you're welcome to give it as a little teaching, as long as you give the information that somebody needs to do their final exam. Okay, Linsong, I'll do that. I'll let you know. All right.